Okay, thank you, Dr. Ward, for that excellent introduction. And welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming. This is actually chapter 3 in the book that I'm writing. The book title is called Volatile Breeding Grounds. And it probably took me about 3 weeks to think of that title, so I'm very, very happy with it. The book is actually an extension of my dissertation. I only had 2 case studies in my dissertation concerning this same type of research. One was the Egyptian Muslim Brotherhood, the other one was the ETA in Spain. And so the book is actually an extension with several more case studies and then a counterexample as to why a social movement did not radicalize and become a terrorist organization. And I will, I think, use Gandhi for that and check out why the Indian society did not become violent before their independence because of Gandhi. Okay, so let me find my clicker. Okay, so of course my presentation, this chapter is on the origins of terrorism and the Fuerzas Armadas Revolucionarias de Colombia. That's a mouthful. Okay, and the research question that I actually have here is, why do social movements radicalize and become terrorist organizations? So stated in a much better manner, under what conditions do social movements / political parties resort to the use of terrorist tactics? The reason that I added political parties in that is that I've had some problems with this chapter. This is probably the most difficult one I've done out of the 3. Colombia has a very violent history with, I think it's like 8 civil wars. They've literally been fighting since their independence. And before that too, since the Spanish colonized them. I mean, they've had a very violent history. The Communist Party actually radicalized. And so my problem has been, is it a social movement or a political party or both? And can I call it both? So I'm still working on that. But this is the actual research question throughout the book and the case studies that I'm looking at. Okay, so first, I've always been told never to do this, but I do it anyway because I'm proud of it. I've, throughout the years when I've been working on terrorism, have thought of my own definition because I was not happy with what other people were doing. And of course, in my field, when you put yourself out there, particularly with people who do terrorism and conflict resolution studies, this is an excellent way to get yourself criticized tremendously. But I've stayed with it because I'm just stubborn and I like it. So first, this is, of course, bulleted, and it's a shortened version of it. But terrorist groups are non-governmental entities, meaning they are people who are not employed by the government, they're not involved with the government. They intentionally attack civilian targets. These civilian targets are called non-combatant, meaning that they have no possible way to help the terrorists accomplish their goals. And then there's this whole thing between, are they terrorists or are they freedom fighters? I tend to fall on the side that if you purposely attack people who cannot help you within your struggle, you are a terrorist. And I look at it as not only a tactic, and this is a big struggle within this field, it's not only a tactic, but it's a mindset. And for that reason, revolutionaries, or people who consider themselves revolutionaries, in my mind, once they use terrorist tactics, they are a terrorist. And when they then become a political party later, okay, such as the IRA, the FARC had the Union Patriotica, which was a political party, and I believe it still exists, but it's very weak. The Muslim Brotherhood is now a political party. The list goes on and on and on. Obviously, they're a political party at that point, but I think it's important not to forget that at one point, terrorism became a method for them. So I don't want to forget that. And that's the only reason I'm putting that up there, is that once you use terrorist tactics, you are a terrorist. And it's important not to forget that in the whole scheme of things, because I believe it takes a very, I think there's something to the personality, too. It takes a very, I always say special, and I mean that in a sarcastic way when I'm teaching, but it takes someone, you have to get to that point to want to kill people purposefully. Most people don't get to that point. It's something different that occurs there. Okay, so who cares? All right, now I know this is kind of a terse way to put this, but in grad school I had a professor who would always ask me when I presented her with a research idea. She was one of my major professors. She said, so what? Why do we care? So what? And if I said, my answer and it wasn't good enough to her, inevitably it would be followed with, so what? Why do we care? Okay, so this is why I have this up here. It's always in the back of my mind. So, you know, why do we perform this research that we're doing? Why is it important? I mean, why does anybody care? As we all know, some of us in here who are academics, a lot of times you write this research, you spend a lot of time on it, and maybe 3 other people that do the same thing as you do read it, which is a little disconcerting. So I think that there are broader implications for this research. Okay, one of the most obvious ones is the United States war on terror. Around the world, you know, the United States is supposed to be fighting this war on terror. We're really only concentrated, okay, in 2 countries, Iraq and Afghanistan. Now, we give money, military funding, to countries all over the world. If you're interested, I suggest you look at the U.S. Green Book, and you can look at aid, how aid is differentiated between military and economic aid. But we are fighting this war on terror, so that's important. So why do these people do this? You know, they're not crazy. I hate it when people say they're crazy. Terrorism is a rational decision. It works a lot of times. It's not like they're just, you know, psychologically disturbed or something like that. No, these people are rational people. They function within society. They hold regular jobs, and something causes them to split and to choose violence. So, you know, we all want to know about this question, particularly the war on terror. You know, this is how this research is important. So I put a few statistics up here. In 2008, this is the National Counterterrorism Report on terrorism in 2008. National Counterterrorism Center, sorry. There were 11,800 attacks during 2008. From those attacks, 54,000 resulted in kidnappings, deaths, injuries. 24% of the attacks occurred in South Asia, with Afghanistan and Pakistan registering increased attacks. Overall, interestingly enough, the attacks between 2007 and 2008 decreased in 2008. And terrorist use of kidnappings for ransom increased significantly in 2008. The FARC is one of the best and brightest at kidnapping. So in the whole scheme of things, are you going to get killed by a terrorist? No, not really. Okay, but it's still, I mean, there's a lot of collateral damage that goes on. There are more reasons. There's fear. Okay, so there's this, you know, this research is important in the greater scheme of things. That's my purpose on that. So it's an international problem. And to prove that, these are insignias from terrorist groups. Some of my personal favorites are up here. And I'm just saying it's an international problem, and I've kind of become fascinated by their little insignias that they all have. But for example, this would be the Muslim Brotherhood. This black one's Al-Qaeda. This one here with the snake is the best separatists that you see. You've got the FARC, Hamas, right here. Okay, so those are just some of them. The LTTE, this is one of the most dangerous terrorist groups in the world in Sri Lanka. Also, yeah, one of the most deadliest too. Okay, so getting on to the greater scheme of things. Okay, so the radicalization of the FARC, and I'm just giving you an overview here, can be attributed to 3 factors. The first of these is the charismatic leadership of Manuel Marulanda. I'm just going to call him Sure Shot because that's a lot easier. He's a very good shot. Sure Shot. Okay, frustration that led to aggression. I'm going to talk about the frustration-aggression theory. And then I'm going to talk about the radicalization of the Communist Party. Because originally the FARC was part of the Communist Party. It's separated.